Good day, grade 11. I hope you're all well. Miss Cartwright here with week 8 work, and this week we're looking at pacifism. So in part 1, our objectives are to define key terms from the topic, to understand why people may choose to be pacifists, and to review examples of pacifism in the Bible. So some key terms. What is pacifism? So it's the belief that war and violence are never ever allowed. They are unjustifiable. There are no circumstances when war is allowed. And pacifists believe that all disputes should be settled by peaceful means. So a pacifist who believes that peace is the only way and that there are no circumstances when war is allowed. So a pacifist is a person who is opposed to war of any kind. Some people who aren't pacifists believe in violent protest, and violent protest is a way to express disapproval or an objection against something by using violence. A prisoner of war is a person who has been captured and imprisoned by the enemy in war. And a prisoner of conscience is a person who's been put into prison for their religious belief or their political belief. So those are people who the state that they're in do not tolerate what they believe in, and therefore they will put them in prison. So, a bit of our ethics in here. An absolute pacifist. So, an absolute pacifism is the belief that it's never right. Even if it's self-defense, an absolute pacifist will never ever fight. They think that a human life is so valuable that nothing can justify killing a person deliberately. So, absolute pacifists believe that there should never ever be any violence. So how easy do you think it is to be an absolute pacifist? Can you think of any examples where it might be impossible to be an absolute pacifist? A relative pacifist, when we looked at these absolutism and relativism, a relative pacifist, they are against war and violence. However, they accept that there might be some circumstances when war needs to happen and it's inevitable. And then war is the lesser of the evil than the alternative. Can you think of any examples where actually war is necessary? I want you to think about, are you a pacifist? And if so, what degree? Are you an absolute pacifist or a relative pacifist? Okay, why might people choose to be a pacifist? Why might they choose to be against war and violence of every kind? Many people would agree that war is wasteful. We looked last week at the not only the economic impact, but also the impact on lives. People might be pacifists because of religious reasons. Their religion might say that violence of any kind is not allowed. The belief in sanctity of life, both religious people that believe in the sanctity of life and also non-religious people that believe in the sanctity of life, that life is sacred and therefore should be protected. Many people believe that violence breeds more violence, so that if you go to war, inevitably, even if it results in peace for a time, eventually it will always lead to more violence. And pacifists would think that there is always an alternative. You can use negotiation. You can negotiate with your enemy in order to come to a meaningful decision. And many people would say that actually violence doesn't work. There's no point in going to war because it's not a way to solve issues. So in the Bible, we see one of the main pacifists is Jesus. Jesus encouraged his followers to live in peace. He told them to turn the other cheek. He's talking here against retaliation, against revenge, and saying, actually, no, if someone comes to attack you, you let them attack you on the other side. This is him directly promoting pacifism, to saying violence should never be used. And you see when he says to his disciple, put your sword back in its place. Violence is not the answer. And Stephen also, he was being persecuted for being a Christian, and he didn't retaliate. He didn't even defend himself. So when he was being stoned to death, he didn't even try to defend himself. Instead, he just prayed to the Lord and asked them to forgive him. So both of these are examples from the Bible showing pacifism in action. Okay, so for part 2, we're going to look at the work of known pacifists, so people in history who have promoted pacifism, and we're going to outline some biblical scriptures that support pacifism. So, in terms of famous pacifists, one of the most famous ones is Gandhi, and he opposed the British rule in India, and he used strictly non-violent tactics throughout his reign of trying to go against the British. He consistently spoke about non-violent protest. And he said, there are many causes I would die for, but actually there is not a single cause I would kill for. I think that's a really powerful message there. He's saying that actually I'm prepared to die for my beliefs, but I'm not prepared to kill for it. Muhammad Ali, so when the Vietnam War was happening, he refused to be drafted into the war. And this actually got him banned from boxing and a 5-year prison sentence. He actually didn't end up going to prison because he consistently appealed it. And it took 3 years for his refusal to be overturned by the Supreme Court. He was what we call a conscientious objector. He was saying, I object to the war, so therefore I am not going to fight in it. And he said, I ain't got no quarrel with the Viet Cong. And he said, no, I will not go 10,000 miles to continue the domination of white slave masters over the darker people of the earth. So he was saying here that actually you're telling me by law that I need to go to war and that I need to fight, but actually I am completely against the war, so therefore through non-violence I will go against this. Martin Luther King, he throughout his ministry, he led non-violent protests, non-violent marches, and he consistently gave speeches promoting peace, and he told his followers not to use violent protest. And he said to them, he urged them, please be peaceful. We believe in law and order. We are not advocating violence. I want you to love your enemies. For what we are doing is right, and what we are doing is just, and God is with us. So here he's using Jesus's teachings to love your enemy, to therefore tell them not to use violence, no matter how much the persecution that was going on towards the black people. Martin Luther King said, no, we will not use violence. And another famous pacifist is Albert Einstein, and he was in Berlin, and his values, which he was a very strong pacifist, caused controversy with the other professors that he was working with. And because he was a Jew, he didn't want to stay around in Germany, and he had a Swiss passport, and he didn't support the war efforts, so he moved, and many of his colleagues labelled him as a traitor because he wasn't prepared to fight. And Albert Einstein said, how vile and despicable war seems to me. I would rather be hacked to pieces than take part in such an abominable business. So again, he's saying, I'd rather die than actually take part in violence. Okay, so the Bible has, as we looked at last week or a few weeks ago, has actually teachings promoting war and saying actually there is a time for war. However, there are also many other teachings in the Bible that demonstrate pacifism. It said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Saying actually, if you are promoting peace, you are going to be blessed, and therefore you'll receive goodness in the afterlife. And here again, it's promoting directly against the sort of Old Testament revenge of an eye for an eye. And it says, actually, no, I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. This is saying that Old Testament teaching of retaliation, of revenge, is out the window, and instead you should completely promote peace. It says, beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine. So this is saying, actually, it's not up to you to take revenge, but leave it up to God. Because inevitably, if someone is evil to you, they will receive that punishment from God. In Romans, it says, live in harmony with one another, live peacefully. So again, it's saying, live in harmony, do not fight. As I mentioned earlier, when Jesus said, put your sword back in its place. For those who live by the sword shall die by the sword. It's saying no violence should be allowed. Okay, so this week I want you to watch the video, read the notes. I'm also setting the notes from Jesus and His Legacy if you don't have your book. So make sure you WhatsApp me or email me if you've got any questions. Read the scriptures and make your revision cards. I can't stress enough how useful it will be if you make your revision cards now, because when it comes down to next year, it will be about this time next year that you will be cramming and revising for your exam. If your revision cards are already made with everything that you need, you will be definitely one step ahead. If you would like, I know some people are emailing me their uploading onto Plus Portal their revision cards for me to take a look at. So if you want me to do that, just upload them onto Plus Portal. Make sure you're checking the comment section of the e-locker so you can see when I've marked things, and I'll give you the correct answer if you've got it wrong. I would advise changing your notes there and then so that when you print out them notes that you've done, they're all correct. Complete your assignment. I really want to make sure you're including further research in your answers. So don't just use my notes and Jesus and His Legacy. Take this time to actually do more research into your answers. And some of the questions that I've asked this week, they will require further research. And you must reference your sources. We need to get ready for this referencing because we'll be starting the coursework soon. I know you can't wait for that. But just get into the mode of referencing when you've used further research. Once again, uploaded by Monday at 3 o'clock. Let me know if you need anything, grade 11. Take care. Hopefully I'll see you all soon. Stay happy, stay healthy. Bye-bye.